up right away. It's coming up right away.
Howdy.
Hello, everyone. How are you? So day 9.
Day 9. Ha!
Day 9.
Important figure in the StarCraft community.
Very awesome guy.
Speaking of that, today we are talking about StarCraft.
We are
So
getting
first,
into it.
We've gotten some feedback, and we've been asked to explain what we're talking about because we're losing some people. And so we'll just jump right in. We'll define StarCraft. StarCraft is a real-time strategy game, and I'll use these. What that means is that what's a good example of a real-time strategy game?
A real-time strategy game would sort of be like chess. I mean, it's a type of game where
There's no turns in StarCraft.
right. It's a real-time strategy game is where you sort of have your team, your civilization, which you have to build up while you have your opponent who's building up their own civilization at the same time, and then it's a competition to see who can make their civilization sort of like, or their like army or economy more efficient than the other person, to eventually sort of just overrun them.
Mm-hmm. Basically, you start out with your command center and 6
one base,
harvesters,
and like
gatherers,
6 peons.
workers. Yeah, whatever you want to call them.
And then from those 6 workers, they
build up.
They start mining. They bring in resources.
And then with those resources, you make
more workers
or a building to build an army unit. And then from there, you just get better and bigger army units, more advanced technologies, stuff like that, until you feel ready to move out of your base and go attack the enemy.
Kill them.
And there's all these different strategies where you can
do that quicker.
Yeah, but we won't get into that now. We won't confuse anyone.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be comparing StarCraft to Warcraft.
Indeed. Both these games are made by the same company, Blizzard. Good on them because they make some pretty awesome games.
Mm-hmm. Warcraft is a role-playing game when you're only playing one character.
World of Warcraft. Warcraft was...
Yeah.
Yeah. But World of Warcraft and StarCraft, both, so, like you were saying, World of Warcraft, which is a role-playing game where you command one person.
You play with everyone else who is only controlling one person, so it's basically just like a second life, almost.
Yeah, sure.
And the community is almost forced upon you, and we're going to be talking about the differences in community. Do you want to say some stuff on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, after we got the game StarCraft and we first started playing it, and we played it back last year during the summer when
the beta came out.
We picked up the beta, and we were extremely excited about the game because even though we hadn't played the original StarCraft or Brood War, which was sort of like the expansion of the first StarCraft, we had still heard of StarCraft. We hadn't played it. We didn't really know much about it, but we had heard about it because it's an extremely well-known game.
Yeah, especially in South Korea.
Especially in South Korea and some like other countries, it's very popular. And so when we picked it up, we were really excited because it was made by Blizzard. So we had just coming from WoW, we were really sort of excited about a new game. And it became pretty obvious, pretty apparent right away that this was a different game. This was not World of Warcraft. It wasn't really similar in any
Learning
way.
curve.
Yeah.
It's not a curve. It's vertical.
Yeah. It was really hard to learn the game. The controls are completely different. I remember bringing home Colton's computer because he had downloaded it first, and I played like 10 games on his account. Just lost every single one. It was just not fun at all. I was like, oh god.
After my practice leagues, I was doing okay in practice league, losing some, winning a couple. Got into the real world of StarCraft and lost 20 games in a row.
Yeah,
probably around 23 before I won my first, and then it was just a celebration.
But once we started playing the game, and we started learning the game, and we got more proficient at it, then we started noticing really a lot of the differences between World of Warcraft and StarCraft. First and foremost is definitely the community aspect.
Yeah.
And when we talk about community, it's important that we define what really community is for a game. Pretty much, I think the way we see a community for a game is pretty much anyone who discusses that game,
Is
plays that
involved
game.
with it in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Just involved with the game in some way. And so the StarCraft community is very is very different from the World of Warcraft community. First and foremost, I'd say that the WoW community I think is a lot more aggressive,
Yeah.
and a lot more sort of prone to drama,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with people on a more personal level, because it's not it's not really like you outplayed someone in the StarCraft game. You just sort of straight up beat them, or maybe you lose to them, and then after that, you may not see that person for you may not play that person ever again, or maybe you play them months down the road, or you don't remember them. But in WoW, you remember the people you play against. You remember people
Yeah.
who may beat you in something.
There's a bunch of, we say rage. It's a common term.
Yeah,
For us,
just
it's kind of just
gaming
like
frustration.
just people yelling, or caps lock yelling.
Yeah.
And there's all these forums on World of Warcraft sites, and I remember Colton got raged at a bunch, a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, it's just people are a lot more prone to, I think, anger. At least that's sort of how we remember it from sort of the WoW days.
In comparison to the StarCraft community, the StarCraft community is a lot more nice, and they're all about helping everyone get and like improve their game. Kind of the people, or kind of because you're like you said, you're not gonna remember everyone you played, and it's just, oh, it's one game, I lost, whatever, I'll move on.
Yeah, I'd say that the StarCraft community is a lot sort of in it's a good thing, but I guess it can also be considered a bad thing. I'd say the StarCraft community is a bit less personal, and the fact that WoW was a more personal community sort of meant that you know emotions could run high.
Yeah.
But StarCraft, I think, is definitely a lot sort of less intense, which we found very sort of refreshing.
Yeah.
It's nice when you don't have to deal with a lot of screaming
Mhm.
gamers. Um, so I think that was one of the most important distinctions between StarCraft and World of Warcraft. I think the second most important distinction is that there is a pause button on StarCraft. There's the time to play StarCraft, and then there's the time where you don't have to play StarCraft.
Kind of a transition from the community. When you pause it in a game, like it can be a league game, everyone, like even the finals of the TSL, the Team Liquid Star League, the finals had to be paused for 5 minutes because they were having some lag issues. And yeah, the people were like all amped up and they're kind of frustrated, but they didn't like unpause it. Anyone can unpause it, by the way. And no one really did that. There's kind of like a difference between the top Warcraft players and the top StarCraft players. It's just a lot more forgiving.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I guess, just for our personal lives more, work. World of Warcraft used to be a job for us. It wasn't really we'd log on when we wanted to play. We would log on because we were sort of required to play. We were expected to play. We were
That sounds kind of funny, but there was times when we didn't want to go on a raid.
right.
By a raid, we mean going into other parts of the world and killing bosses, which are really hard monsters. It
Yeah,
takes a lot of
a
people
raid
to
is
kill.
just when you're trying to kill bosses.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
In a large group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a large group. And so
That's Michael, by the way. He's on the bench.
Again, I don't know if you can see me. Hey guys.
Shut up, Michael. Just kidding. I love you.
Love you too, babe.
Back to what was I talking about? Jesus.
Rating.
Yeah, no, we're just talking about
That's
rating.
me.
But yeah, the fact that you can sort of play when you wanted to play with StarCraft meant that we didn't have to miss any more family dinners. We didn't have
That's a
to
big one.
we didn't have to sort of postpone social interactions with people outside the game, which was a huge deal. StarCrafts allowed us to play on our own time, and the fact that they're completely different games was sort of okay with us because with StarCraft, I mean, there are rankings, so it's pretty easy to see where you are compared
Yeah.
to a lot of other people, and that can motivate you to play more, play less. It's
There's
really up.
also less discussion over who's better, so it kind of takes, in a funny way, it kind of takes out a lot of the competition.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
you're
you know,
motivated to
because
get
you
better,
sort of
but
know exactly where people stand,
yeah.
so it's sort of like, oh well, maybe I'm not, you know, near, super near the top, so why should
Yeah.
I keep leaning out?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Well, I think that's
But yeah,
stop.
I think those were probably some of the most important.
Trying to
Sort
keep
of,
it under 11 minutes this time.
yeah. But yeah, I think those are the important distinctions. Tomorrow's our tournament, big day. We'll be doing one last sort of web
Yeah, just
series.
wrap up over
Everything.
like everything we've learned, the benefits of gaming. So, tune in next time.
All right. See you guys.